Welcome to Edward Box Guitar Tuition. So I've got another classic album inspection. Not totally a classic really, but it's just an album I was interested to look at because it's kind of seen as the beginning of a sort of a decline period for the band Saxon, and it's their 1984 album Crusader. So prior to this album, Saxon, new album legends, they did their debut album Saxon, which is probably the first new album. There's arguments against that. Then you got the classic run of Wheels of Steel, Strong Lord Denim and Leather. And that kind of gets signed off with their Eagle Has Landed live album, which is actually the first album to feature the drummer Nigel Glockler, but it kind of feels like it's ending the Pete Gill era because he does some of the tour, I think. Then they sort of begin, I suppose, the next year with the Power and the Glory album, which is very good. But one of the things with this album is they go to America. They work with a producer called Jeff Glixman. Well, that works really well for me. It's got a little more polish, gets a much better guitar sound. And although it lacks this sort of abundance of classics, it's got the title track and Eagles Has Landed, it's still a strong record, and Glockler really plays up a storm on it and, makes his presence felt. Like, just move my camera a bit. When it comes to Crusader, they're clearly, the Power and the Glory album is actually their best-selling album worldwide, I think, and estimates put it at 1.5 million copies worldwide. Although sometimes I hear that Crusader may have sold more, but obviously going to America seems to be the way for them to get a more commercial sound, and they're starting to do support slots on American tours. Obviously, they want to break the States like Priest, like like Maiden and Def Leppard, because they've all done that by that point. So they hook up with producer Kevin Beamish, and I think this is the first kind of mistake. Kevin Beamish was renowned for producing REO Speedwagon. He did the High Infidelity album, which is a massive seller. A really good AOR producer, but not metal. Let's just have a look at the album anyway. It's strange because the album's got a great cover by Paul Gregory, who does their album art now and runs the Bloodstock Festival. It's one of the great album covers, metal albums of its day. But in a way, it's kind of ahead of its time. It's kind of like a power metal, battle metal cover. The title and the whole iconography, the image, it kind of feels like it wants to be in the late 90s. And in part of the power metal resurgence in the late 90s, Hammerfall and bands like that. So in that sense, it's ahead of its time, and the band's image on the back sleeve, they're kind of dressed in Crusader gear, which probably looked after at the time, but now it's quite common to see bands in battle metal gear, Obviously, Manowar had a battle metal image. So the packaging's really good. It's got a gatefold sleeve, so EMI Records, actually still in Korea, EMI were distributing, spared no expense with, the sleeve design, the packaging. And the album starts off with an out-and-out classic, Crusader. Prior to the title track, it's got the Crusader Prelude, and this is something that Saxon will revisit on albums after this. It's starting with a kind of short piece. They kind of forsake this for a while, but when they go into their kind of what I call their German power metal phase, where they're kind of getting more of the German and Greek market and so on, they will often start with a short piece. The Crusader Prelude is very atmospheric. It's just sound effects of battle, and then someone saying Crusader. And then it goes into the intro to the title track, which has got a great sort of clean picked intro, a little bit like Hell's Bells. Really good. Glockless fills on this track are absolutely brilliant. But I think the first thing you notice about it is how thin the sound is. This album's extraordinarily thin sounding. The guitars are brittle. There's not much bottom end. The drums have a nice snap, but it's almost like there's just no thunder or oomph to this record. And that's what ultimately undermines the record, principally to me. But that aside, Crusader is a classic opener. Then it goes into a little bit of what you fancy. Now, Saxon have started to do sort of double kicks and boogies. They did This Town Knows How to Rock on the Power and Glory album, which is a really fun track, actually. It's got a great Glockler performance. This one just feels a bit lamer to me. The riff is actually ripping off a track called The Full Bug by Van Halen, which is on the Diver Down album, which is a kind of forgotten Van Halen boogie, which I really like that track, and I quite like the Diver Down album. The other thing is a lot of multi-tracked harmonies on this, which kind of add an excess of polish to it. Sorry, I've just got an itch there. Apologies. Saxon have vocal harmonies, I have melody, but it feels like they're too stacked to me. And again, so the track's got the thin production, and then it's kind of commercialed out really with those harmonies. Then you got Sailing to America. This is a track I like. Obviously people might give accusations that they're, what happened with Def Leppard, Hello America, doing a song about America, but it's about the Pilgrims, about the Mayflower, classic sort of historical lyric. It's a good track. This again, this production lets it down, but I do like this. Like this is a good commercial track, Saxon track. I think people, forget Saxon can do commercial tracks like Susie Hold On and so on, and they've got their place and they're good at that. Nightmare, Watching the Skies, So I'd like to send to America, and then the end of side one finished with a cover of The Sweet Set Me Free. So this was the first time I'd ever heard this track by The Sweet, and it was actually probably the first time I heard a Sweet song, really. I didn't hear The Sweet until late 84. Obviously this comes out February 84. There's no date for this, so I'm just releasing the video today for its 40th anniversary, but I don't know exactly what week it came out. So the Sweet cover's good. It doesn't really variate from the Sweet much. I mean, the Sweet version's better, but it is a good cover. They do a good job of it. So that finished side one. So pretty decent. There's only really a little bit of What You Fancy that's not very good. It's just the production kind of takes things down a notch. Then side two albums with Just Let Me Rock, which is a really good rocker track. A typical sort of Biff lyric. I like this track, good commercial hard rock track. Again, a bit more commercial, but nothing wrong with that. Then you got Bad Boys Like to Rock and Roll, which is cheesy, but it kind of got a Looks at Kill type of riff. So kind of balancing with the hair metal sound more. But it's got a really good bridge, very, very catchy chorus, so a good filler track. Then Do It All For You, which Kevin Beamish gets a co-write on this. Again, this is an attempt at a sort of a hard rock, more AOR-y number. Again, I suppose a lot of hardcore fans would criticise it, but I think it's a decent song. There's thought gone into it. It's got a good chorus, good vocal. So I like it. And then you got Rock City, which is cheesy. It's got a kind of football stadium whoa thing in it, but it's quite catchy. It's not a bad filler. And then Run For Your Lives finishes off, which has got Run For Your Lives has a football chant on it. Roxy's a little unmemorable. It's got a cool riff. This, it's a decent ending track. So in reality, there's only really a little bit of What You Fancy where I don't really like the song. 4 or 5 of the songs are really strong. The other songs are good filler songs. So the album, under normal circumstances, could have been an 8 out of 10. It's just the production really does just degrade it. This is an album that really needs remixing and ballsing up. So I was marking out of 10. You say 6 or 7. Maybe it's a 7, but I think the problem was that Pound of Glory to me is a strong record, but it probably didn't feel as strong at the time as the Denim and Leather, Strong Arm and Wheels of Steel. So it just felt like Saxon starting to do that, whereas Maiden, remember in 1984 did Power Slave, which for some people was their best album they ever did, certainly in the Bruce era. Priest do Defenders of the Faith. There's arguments is Defenders better than Screaming. I prefer Screaming, but it's still a really strong album. Even acts like Whitesnake did a Slide It In album, which gets some traction in America. And so on. Dio do Last in Line, which is a good follow-up to Holy Diver, although not as good, it's still strong. Def Leppard and Paramount the year before. So, it's difficult for Saxon whenever their rivals or other bands are, punching up. They're not really. And obviously then you've got the Spectre of Metallica releasing Ride the Lightning, classic thrash album. So after this, just quickly look at the other albums they did. So they're trying to reverse this kind of slight decline. This album sells really well. It only makes 19 in the UK, but then the Innocence Is No Excuse album comes out September 85. Again, they go with a more commercial producer, Simon Hanhart, who was like a protege of Mutt Lange. Now, I really like this album. The production is polished, but it's got a lot more balls. The guitar sounds much better. The drum sounds much better than the Crusader album. I think the artwork on the album sleeve lets it down. You've got the logo's looking good, but it's not really a Saxon title. I never really understand the Innocence Is No Excuse. It just doesn't feel very Saxon-y. I understand the apple and the girl, but it's just not metal enough. But the side one of this record is as strong as Saxon can do for me. You got Rockin' Again, Call of the Wild, Back on the Streets, Devil Rides Out. Absolutely corking tracks. And the intro of Rockin' Again is fantastic. One of Biff's best vocals. And then side one, Rock and Roll Gypsy, not quite as good for me, but still a really strong track. And all the band are kind of writing these songs. And Byford Dawson. This will be Steve Dawson's last album with him, which is strange because Devil Rides Out is a great track and he co-writes that with Biff. Then it starts off brilliantly on side 2, the classic Broken Heroes kind of war memorial song. Again, this is Byford and Dawson, really good. You're in great place here. Then the last 4 tracks kind of feel a little similar, but of them, I like Gonna Shout, which is track 7, and Raise Some Hell, track 9. They're really good. Again, Byford and Dawson writing Raise Some Hell. Everybody Up, Give It Everything You Got, kind of feel more fillerish. And I think that's the problem with them, a different running order. And although I don't mind a production, balls of production, a different artwork would change the perception. But I do remember this getting better reviews, or not bad reviews. So to redress this, they kind of did a Rock the Nation album next, which has a more metal album cover by Paul Gregory. I remember this coming out at the time, just thinking, Christ, the Saxon had got an album out already. I mean, they put this out in a year. Gary Lyons produces it, and I can't remember. I think Gary Lyons does the Making Contact album with... No, he does Mechanics, doesn't he? UFO. This is a better sound. The drum sounds better on this. It's more natural. The guitars are a bit thin. I remember hearing this album, and it starts off really good. The title track I really like. Then you got Waiting for the Night. Battle Cry, which is a good, 12/8 Saxon battle metal song. And then you got Waiting for the Night. This is co-written by Nigel Glockler. This is, again, an attempt at a hard rock, more AOR number, but I think the band do it really well. I think Biff's vocals are good. It's a perfectly decent slice of commercial metal, hard rock that would do well in that the period it was made. And then We Came Here to Rock. That was the end of the original side one. It's actually a pretty good side. I mean, We Came Here to Rock. It's actually good. Side 1 was strong. Side 2 was where it came unstuck. You Ain't No Angels, a really poor attempt at kind of sleazy metal with a terrible bit with a girl going, "Hey boys," in the middle. A really bad Van Halen bit. You got Running Hot, which is an okay driving song. It's better. I never understood Party Till You Puke. The interesting thing about that is Elton John plays keyboards on it, piano. That must have been interesting, Saxon and Elton John. But I just don't like the song. It's an attempt at a sort of Daft Party metal song like Van Halen, but they don't pull off. Then you got Empty Promises, and Northern Lady, which finish off, which I think are pretty decent tracks. Again, this album feels like a 6.5 out of 10. There's elements of it that improve production, certainly from Crusader. Feeling a bit more metal, but just not the strength of the writing there. They probably rushed it. I don't know why they kind of planned this album out. They could have taken an extra 6 months and waited till February the next year. And then after that, they have Destiny. I should say that Rock the Nations has Paul Johnson on bass. Steve Dawson's gone by then, and that fundamentally changes the chemistry of the band. And Nigel Glockler goes for this album, and Nigel Durham comes in. Nigel Durham does a good job. He's kind of more like a Tommy Lee Showman kind of drummer. Probably less sort of those Neil Peart style fills, but kind of the right kind of drumming for the more commercial hard rock era. This opens with Saxon's best ever cover, their brilliant cover of Ride Like the Wind. I mean, it's a shame the best track on the album is a cover version, but they do that thing like Priest did with the Green Man Alicia. They take the song and make it their own. Had a good video of this, great vocal from Viff. It is the night! It's Christopher Cross, it's almost like he wrote the lyrics for Biff, isn't it? It is the night! Cool, Paul Quinn solo. Then you got Where the Lightning Strikes. So what happens on this album? So I'm just going to grab some notes here. Actually, Where the Lightning Strikes is a good track. Then I Can't Wait Anymore. This is kind of Waiting for the Night Part 2. It's kind of, again, an AOR hard rock number. It's not as memorable as the other one, or We Will Remember, which is on the Solid Ball Rock album. But I do like it. But again, the production by Stefan Gaffas. Is it Gaffas? Galfas, apologies. He did Stripe as Hell with the Devil, To Hell with the Devil album, which is actually a great sounding record with really big guitars and big drums. But he waters this out. The guitars are thin again. The drums is pretty good sound, but he's got a lot of keyboards on it. But Calm Before the Storm, it's about a 6 out of 10. Yeah, this could be a good track. It's too polished. It's almost AOR. Then you got SOS, which I like, which is like the Titanic, but again, very commercial chorus. And that was the end of the original side one. So, again, probably not as bad as people might think. Not as bad as I'd never really listened to this album in much detail, but I started to give it a really good listen. You got a song for Emma, which it's okay. It's kind of AOR. For Whom the Bells Toll, which would be alright, but it's just too polished. We Are Strong. that's very, very we are strong. You know, it's very major key. It's a kind of a bit Eurovision Song Contest. Here's the rock entry for the Eurovision Song Contest. Then you got Jericho Siren, which, you know, it's all right. And then Red Alert's quite good fun. But again, side two, there's not necessarily a bad track. There's not really a track that's like, oh, that's great. So the album for me really stands on those 4 really strong tracks on side one. Again, you know, what would you give it out of 10? You know, some people might give it 7.5 out of 10 based on the tracks, but with the production being thin out and the commerciality of it, again, it's kind of, it feels like a 7 at best, but it's kind of like more like a 6, 6.5. So really grouping these albums with Crusader, they all suffer from the same problem really. They're too commercial, polished in places, the production's too thin, or maybe not with Innocence as much. There's too many kind of vocal harmonies, and bringing in the keyboards on Destiny's it's just changing that new Wobham DNA too much. But I do think Innocence Is No Excuse is you know, it's really, really close to being like a really strong record for me. So I hope you enjoyed that. That was kind of Saxon, you know, in a kind of decline period, but you know, they still produced some really good music, and they survived and came back better. And bands, you know, they have to go there to come back. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. Please remember, share and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're doing these albums now, 1984, 94, 2004, years like that. So we're doing the 40th anniversaries. 40 years since New Crusader. I can still remember my brother getting it and me listening to it. Okay, cheers. I'll see you soon. Thank you.